Take one.
I don't think we're gonna do more than one take. All right.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna feed the sourdough. Now I've kept my sourdough in the refrigerator here for the last week or so, and I just keep it in a little container right here. So this is very similar to what you should have from Gigi. And I'm gonna go through a cycle now where I'm gonna keep it out on the counter for a few days. I'm gonna make some pizza dough. It's been requested, I gotta do that. So maybe tomorrow I'll make pizza dough. And Gigi has requested the sourdough cake. So I'm gonna need my sourdough happy for that. And maybe I'll make some waffles on Sunday or something like that. So I'm gonna be using it through the weekend. So I'm gonna get it out of the counter, on the counter, feed it twice a day. The feeding is the same no matter whether you're going straight in the refrigerator for a weekly storage or whether you're gonna have it out on the counter for a few days. The only difference is you feed it twice a day if it's out on the counter. You can feed it and put it in the refrigerator for a week. You do need to feed it, then straight in the refrigerator. Some people do something different. This is what I do. You're gonna find different answers. I do everything by weight. So I have my scale and I do everything by grams. It does not matter what your measurements are, but what you're doing is a 1-to-1-to-1 by weight. 1 part sourdough starter, 1 part flour, 1 part water. So I always do 50 grams because that's just what I've always done. It's a good amount. You end up with 150 grams of starter. So I've got my starter that's been in the refrigerator. Do my 50 grams there. And this is the one that can be the least exact. If you have more or less starter, it's just not a big deal. So see, I'm at 55. That doesn't really matter. My water and my flour, I'm going to want to be exact. I use water that I dechlorinate by sitting it on the counter. I just set it on the counter for a day, and the chlorine evaporates out of it. I find that to be the best way to do it. You can also boil it, and then you gotta let it cool back down to room temperature. Or you can use bottled water, but I don't know why you would. But you want to try to have a water that has less chlorine than just out of the tap. All right, so that's right at 50 grams there. So starter, 50 grams starter, 50 grams water. Stir it. You're just trying to get the yeast and bacteria and everything mixed all through there. And that's just the easiest and best way to do it. Now, 50 grams of flour. I personally do a 50% whole wheat and a 50% red flour. I did that because I want to bake more with the whole grain, and so I want a yeast colony and bacterial colony that's well adapted to the whole grain as well. And I want to be able to use it for both. It really doesn't matter. You can just use bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour. You can use wheat flour, whole wheat flour. I find that if I just use what I bake with, then I have the best result. And so these are the 2 flours that I usually bake with, and so this is what I use. I just do 25 grams of each of these. That's my whole wheat. This is my bread flour. $50 grams there. Stir it really, really well. This you need to be totally incorporated. That's what it ends up looking like. Now, if you're doing volume, let's say you don't have a scale. I don't know if you have a scale.
Well, you should get a scale if you don't have a scale.
Just get a scale. But your flour weighs just about half what your water weighs. And your starter and your water end up weighing about the same. So if you're gonna do, like 2 tablespoons of starter, that's 1/8 of a cup, 1/8 of a cup of starter, 1/8 of a cup of water, and then you do a 1/4 cup of flour if you were doing it by volume. But just get a scale, it's way easier.
Wait, so say that again?
Flour weighs about half the water. The water and the starter end up weighing about the same.
So
by volume.
you said 1/8 of a cup of starter, 1/8 of a cup of flour, and how much water?
1/8 of a cup of starter and 1/8 of a cup of water.
So the same volume but different weights.
Well, the starter weighs about what water weighs. It just does. I don't know why.
Say it again.
So if you're doing this just get a scale.
Okay, let's just get a scale. No more. Just get a scale. End of conversation.
Okay. Okay. And then one of the things that's really helpful, in my opinion, if you're going to be keeping it out on the counter so you know how well it's doing, I like to mark it. I usually get my dough helper. Dough helper. Hey. Come here.
This is for YouTube, so.
Okay, whatever. Do you want to do this?
Yeah, we make sure you have a clear spot.
You're gonna blur out, right?
No.
Okay.
You're going to be a YouTube star because of this. Now, what are you doing?
Okay, so we want to mark where it is,
Okay.
and then we want it to roughly double in size, ideally.
No, leave the dog alone. So mark where it is.
And then I think no, that's not. Is that it? Yeah, that's not it. Okay, you can use like the tiniest or the just you should use the tiny one and a dry erase marker, or
Okay.
you're gonna have a permanent something that's permanent.
We like to use dry erase marker on a plastic. It works really well.
It's like about 1/3.
I think it's a little bit lower than that. See how there's a gap right there, right under that gap right there.
Right here.
Like I think it's right. I think it's right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what
double
is that? That's like 2 centimeters?
That's like about like 1, maybe a little less than 1. So
Okay.
It's like about like right here.
Okay.
That's the one.
So we'll mark it, and then if it doubles in size, then you've got a really healthy, happy culture. That's how you know. And if I was going to bake a loaf of bread, let's say I was going to bake a loaf of bread. Let me talk about what that cycle looks like, okay? If I'm just doing this for my discard, if I'm just baking...
Okay, you can go back to your
If I'm
your
just
videos
baking
now.
cakes, crackers, waffles, whatever, I'm just using the sourdough as a flavor component, then it doesn't really matter how happy the sourdough is. I'm not using it for leavening. But if I want to raise a loaf of dough with this, if my goal here is I'm going to make a sourdough loaf, I need my sourdough to at least be able to double in order to do that. And I need it really to be able to do that in about 4 hours. So if I was going to use this to leaven an entire loaf on its own with no commercial yeast, I would set a timer for 4 hours. And if this could double in size in 4 hours, then I would know that it's happy and good to go. And then I would use the amount called for in the recipe. So normally this would be called the levain in a recipe, or it might call for fed sourdough starter. And then I would feed it, give it 4 hours to make sure it doubles. Then I would pull that out, and that'd be my starter. Okay. If I'm just feeding it to keep it happy and alive, twice a day. So now it's 8:30. I've got an alarm set in the morning for 8, and we'll feed it again tomorrow morning at 8, and then we'll feed it again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Now, I only use 50 grams out of that starter from the refrigerator. This is now discard. This is my active starter. It goes to a warm spot, and this is my discard. With this, I can make cake, crackers. I can make baked goods where I'm using commercial yeast and using the discard just for the sourdough flavor.
Trust him. He's my dad, and he's the best cook. Not better than Gigi, but he's good.
I mean, pretty good. Not
Even though
not Gigi level.
Yeah, like even though you're not connected to her bloodline,
Right.
you got it somehow from her.
I got from her.
Somehow.
Okay.
Like I got her
And
cookbook.
you got kind of like a green thumb.
You got
I
the-
did.
Yeah, you kind of.
Kind of. Okay. Thank you.
So my discard, I will just now every time I feed it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have that discard and I'm gonna save it in this same container. I'll keep this in the refrigerator, and tomorrow morning I'll pull it out and I'll take 50 grams and feed it again, and I'll take that whatever's left over and I'll put it right in here, and then I'll make this weekend. I'll make a cake
Okay.
and maybe waffles.
Cool.
Starter we'll keep in the refrigerator forever. If you get in for months, if you get into, it'll get alcohol on the top. That's fine. That's normal. Sometimes it's black. It looks gross. It smells like alcohol. It's clean. It's fine. You mix it in and use it. It's not a problem.
Okay.
If you get to where you're like super into sourdough, you got to get to where you're using your discard, or else you're just throwing a lot of flour away. And there's no reason to throw it away because it's delicious. You can use it anywhere.
And I'm sure you can make another video and tell her all of the things you use your discard for real.
This is our dog.
Okay. Yeah. This is not really for YouTube. This is really just for Aunt Andrea.
It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. That's it. This goes in the fridge. Don't look in the fridge. The fridge is